Well, hello there, my friends. Today we are back on aboardtheretort.com. As many of you are well aware, late last night, Alpha Chad Daddy Vickers had done a reaction of sorts to Faye's little statement video. And I know I mentioned that I was going to be doing this later on today. And well, now here we are. So, let's get into this. From whom it does concern. Before we begin, Mrs. V and I want to make clear that the majority of our responses here are directed not at Faith, but at Ethan Oliver Ralph, aka The Gunt, about the audio statement read by Faith and posted to YouTube in the early morning hours of September the 9th, 2020. Whether or not Faith was coerced to read the statement, we cannot say. But what we do know is that while this is clearly being read by our daughter, these are not her own words. You should have done some more research before you wrote the statement, Gunt, because this is going to get painful. Well, I'm sure it will. In fact, some of the assertions here are so glaringly false. The primary impact on us has merely been to engender additional justifiable concern for Faith's welfare. In short, you have made a tactical error if your intent was to dissuade us from pursuing further legal action against you. It should be more than clear by this point that Faith is not now, nor has ever been, the target of our quote-unquote war, though we are now upgrading this war to a crusade against the Gunt. Our only contention with Faith ever has been the defamatory statements that she has made against us in the past. We believe now that our timeline post in the Gunt timeline section of this here website was more than enough to straighten out those misconceptions. The Gunt and his quote-unquote Gunt guard have continued with this diversionary tactic by attempting to sway attention away from our critiques of his wrongdoing and paint a picture of parents that are attacking their daughter. This is not the case. In a truly underthought and misguided attempt to sway our opinion on the matter, the Gunt has willingly and intentionally attempted to weaponize our child against us. His actions prove only that his arrogance has no roots in reality, as he clearly assumes that he has learned more about Faith in approximately 7 months than her own parents have learned about her over almost 19 years. We will make this quite clear. Ethan Oliver Ralph, on paper and in reality, is the bad guy. Mrs. Vickers and myself, on paper and in reality, are the good guys. Our roles in this little dance are clear. There are a lot of bad guys in the world. Mrs. Vickers and I are not heroes. We are not police officers. We are not former military, not firefighters. We do what we can through the nature of our lives to make the world a better place, but we are ultimately only two people with little ability to have any significant impact on the Gunt's kind en masse. But when a wretch of humanity slithers into our lives looking to inflict maximum pain, the only response by the good guys is to, as they say, go scorched earth on that wretch, forcing him to either slither back into his cold, lonely hovel or bringing utter ruin upon him. Faith knows this. She has witnessed it firsthand. She will witness it again. This is not a couple of parents who want anything to do with internet fame beyond what purpose it serves to accomplish your retreat, your surrender, or your ruin. This is a couple who will use whatever tools are at their disposal to exact bedlam on the slime that broke their world, and in his own words, Thanos snapped their happy family. But to coin another marvelism, you have read in your ledger, Gunt, and the bill has come due. Before moving on to address this statement specifically, we would both like to say that for whatever part we may have played in causing Faith any harm, it was unintentional. Please believe and understand, if we did not think that you were in very real danger, none of this would be happening. To whom it may concern, Faith's statement on behalf of Ethan Ralph. I've tried my best not to respond to the attacks from my mother and father over the last few weeks. She really did do her best. In fact, she never reached out by any form of communication to even ask us to stop. She has not spoken with us directly since we took her to the hospital almost a month ago on this very day. Our only correspondence from her since then was a handwritten letter requesting personal items. My main focus has been on my relationship and recovery. Recovery from what? We have not been advised by her or the gun that there has been anything for her to recover from. Has she been injured? That will continue to be the case. However, due to the recent unethical and arguably illegal activities, I have decided that it was necessary to set the record straight with a statement. We will cover quote-unquote unethical and arguably illegal later, but my offer still stands to the gunt. If you think I am doing anything illegal, bring charges. Our primary course of actions are being motivated by our unconsented release of a sex tape featuring our daughter. I welcome the opportunity to bring this up in court and have you answer to it. As the video is a primary cause of our grievance with you, and you've done nothing to correctly convince us that the crime was not committed by you yourself, then we must press forward. You see, from our very rational standpoint, you've managed to greatly contribute in the destruction of a young woman you supposedly quote-unquote love because you are a drunken fool. The concept of assumed innocence only applies within the court system. It saves you, for now, from the law, but it does not save you from us. We know that you are guilty. I will state this fact on our supposed unethical or arguably illegal behavior. We have not, in our crusade, told any lies. I am not mentally ill, as my parents would have you believe. I have mental health issues, depression, anxiety, PTSD, all things that millions of Americans deal with daily. Does this sentence even require a response? Is there a difference between mental health, quote-unquote, issues and mental, quote-unquote, illness? But I think what the gun had intended her to say was that she was not mentally ill in the way that her parents are claiming, almost certainly something in the spectrum of antisocial personality disorders, and that she is doubling down on her claims of depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Assuming that is what the gun meant, we will make this quite plain. We have very good reason to suspect that Faith does not suffer from the 3 mental ailments that she claims plague her. Our reason will be explored in more detail later on in our response. We did, at one point, absolutely believe these claims, but what we know now is painfully much more than we knew then. Last month, in the face of withering abuse and attacks from Kiwi Farms, Godwinson, PPP, and others, I had a breakdown and required hospitalization. This is utter and complete nonsense, and one of the reasons how we know that this is gut writing. Faith's hospitalization was the result of a confrontation about Mrs. V and myself uncovering a long list of lies. None of these lies had anything to do with Kiwi Farms, Godwinson, PPP, or others. The lies were to us as much as they were to the gun. Feeling backed into a corner, Faith refused to respond or defend her actions. She said that she wanted to hurt herself. She said that she felt like jumping through the window of the hotel, she proclaimed that the only thing that would make her feel better would be to talk to the gunt. Certainly, we did not facilitate that request. Mrs. V, upon Faith's threats of self-harm and claims of suicidal ideations, was the first person to suggest that Faith go to the hospital. Faith never requested it, merely nodded her head when Mrs. V made the offer. Stay still. My parents, who now talk about how much they care about me, used to regularly ridicule my mental health. Not true. At times we have certainly questioned the validity of her claims because there seemed to be more evidence to the contrary than evidence of any serious mental health issues. There were times that we certainly criticized her actions as being inconsistent with someone who considered themselves mentally ill and carried on with other actions antithetical to recovering or symptomatically treating such conditions. Additionally, on multiple occasions, her claims of a mental crisis were clearly attempted at emotional hostage-taking in an attempt to avoid normal and natural consequences of her misbehavior. And on that day, they didn't even want to take me to the hospital until I forced their hand. We already covered this, but again, it was Mrs. V who suggested a visit to the hospital. Faith merely accepted the ride, and then she signed out against medical advice after the attending doctor promised her that he would keep her hospitalized until they had together, not with Mrs. V or myself, formulated a solid action plan to get her help for her mental health, and that the plan must necessarily be better than the option of coming back to California, which she clearly did not want to do. If she supposedly forced our hand, why did she surrender her best opportunity for help? The concerned parent routine is just an act, obviously nonsense. In fact, were it not for our direct, intense, active support for the last 3 months of high school, she definitely would not have graduated. If it wasn't an act, how could my father, Matthew Vickers, justify linking up with the same scumbags who put me in the hospital? He now interacts with Kiwi Farms and considers them friends. He does interviews with Godwinson. I have never used the word quote-unquote friend to describe anyone from Kiwi Farms. I have had 0 interactions with Kiwi Farms directly. Some of my early Twitter posts included screen caps, which included many criticisms, which I shortly ceased out of concern for the rest of my family. So far as the interview, singular, with Godwinson, I declined an interview early on with the many people who requested one. Months later, I saw that Godwinson defended Faith and I against a seeming or former gunk guard who not only referred to Faith as a degenerate whore, but has said that I should be hanged with other degenerates. Mrs. V and I offered a written response style interview, but when the timing did not work out, she and I decided that we would go ahead and try to do the interview ourselves. If I started to go sideways or in a direction that we didn't like, we could simply disconnect the call. A stunning concept for anyone who believes they are being bullied remotely. Pre-interview, during interview, and post-interview, Godwinson was nothing but respectful, kind, and professional to both Mrs. Vickers and myself. Whether that respect and kindness was genuine or not is irrelevant. Whether he will quote-unquote turn on us or not is irrelevant. He allowed us a voice which we previously had not had, and without an ability to contact Faith directly, we thought that it might help her to understand the wake of destruction left in her path at the behest of the gunt. Ultimately, we opted not to wait for actors and felt it more important for our own voices to be heard, knowing that the more time Faith is with the gunt, the more danger that she is ultimately in. These These are the people responsible for the sudden decline of my mental health, and my father now calls them friends. First, we've already covered the cause of the sudden decline in Faith's mental health that led to the hospitalization. Second, Faith nor any of her family would have never even been on Kiwi Farm's radar sans her interaction with the Gunt. Third, I have multiple text messages from Faith to myself and her mother, in addition to emails from the Gunt advising us that Kiwi Farm's attacks were nothing to worry about and we should just ignore it and it's no big deal. So which is it, Gunt? Are they responsible for the sudden decline in her mental health, or are they no big deal? Even if Kiwi Farms had anything to do with causing any kind of decline in her mental health, our tip is simple. Stop reading Kiwi Farms. This requires no therapy, no medication, no physical interaction. Just stop. It is literally action through inaction. Reference again is this idea that I consider Kiwi Farms friends. I would reinforce that a handful have reached out to us personally and have been much kinder than the Gunt has ever been. Others have been cruel, but I know 0 of them personally, so it is impossible for me to refer them as friends. That is not behavior of a concerned parent, it's the behavior of a narcissist. Pot calling the kettle black, Gunt. Narcissist. A person who has an excessive interest in our administration of themselves. Shall we look at my non-existent history of trying to gain and maintain fame against your own? Both Mrs. Vickers and I long to return to the quiet life. You have made that impossible. That you think this is some kind of party for us proves how ignorant you truly are. This is pain, all of it. You think I make jokes here and there in public because I'm having a good time? That's how I deal with this horror show. And it's not an uncommon way to deal with traumatic experiences. Proceeding through pain to do what you believe is right for your child, there is no better definition of concerned parent. This man has shown my private health history to the entire internet without my consent. Quote-unquote, this man probably should have rewritten that Gunt. This is supposed to be in Faith's own words. Private health history? Not hardly. We've shared nothing that we've not been directly involved in, which makes it just as much our story to tell as hers. When my name is being smeared as a child beater, by my own daughter no less, we can think of nothing more deserving of a swift, clear response. We require no consent from anyone to tell our own side of the story, especially if I've been accused of a crime. When I was in the hospital last month, they called only once, even if they didn't leave their number. Which genius in the academic Gunstable thought up this little gem? Mrs. V called several times and left a message for her to call us back. Naturally, we'd assume that Faith knew our phone numbers, as they haven't changed for the better part of 12 years. Mrs. V's phone has had the same number since before Faith was born. Wow. Obviously, the doctors knew our number as they reached out to us multiple times, so Faith had easy access to our phone number had she ever at any point wanted to call us. The doctors told us specifically that Faith refused to call us back and refused to speak with us, even refusing the first attempt at a family meeting over the phone with her and the other doctors. I don't want to sound old Joe Biden here, but this assertion is pure malarkey. He talks about me getting tested for medical ailments, but when I was there, they neglected to take me to get medical care time and time again. Delays, excuses, there was always a reason. Poorly written, so I'll have to translate again. I assume by when I was there, she means living with us in California. Aside from her regular appointments with the same pediatrician all her life, We had helped Faith transition from a pediatrician to our primary care physician. She had her first appointment scheduled for August 31st of 2020 to begin her quote-unquote adult medical care, but of course ran off to Guntsville before that and did not attend the appointment as a virtual appointment so far as we know. My father has publicly disavowed me on Twitter, shared embarrassing details about my life, and much, much more. Aside from the use of much, much more, seeming like there's a bargain sale at Walmart, I quote-unquote disavowed Faith, not without warning, because she currently presents herself as a very real danger to her family. I've taken plenty of flack from all angles on the quote-unquote disowning, even my supposed best pals on Kiwi farms. Not only did I make clear to Faith and the Gunt what my response would be should these courses of action be carried out, I kept my promise. I believe that it was the right thing to do, and while there can certainly be debate on whether or not making that decision public was the right thing to do, I fail to see what difference it makes. When an adult child leaves the home, they make the decision whether they want to grow the family by choosing a stable, decent partner who gains at least moderate approval from those who know and love that person. But adults are also allowed to make their own decision. Say, fuck off family who gave me everything and go be with whoever the hell they want to be with. This is the difference between growing the family or shrinking the family. The Gunt helps shrink our family, not grow it. The Gunt has never made any attempt to be a likable person to us, only mocked us and degraded us for questioning the legitimacy of this trash fire that has been their relationship. He acts with the mentality of a criminal, demanding respect when he has done absolutely nothing to earn it. I will not have that toxic influence on my family. However, my use of the term disown does not have necessarily permanence. It only holds so long as Faith continues down her current path of self-destruction. My parents, through their reckless behavior, have also likely poisoned the civil proceeding that I was in the process of undertaking against my rapist. My dad is the one who encouraged me to do this, and it breaks my heart that he has probably demolished any chance I had to get some sort of attempt at closure on that. He probably doesn't care about this at all, but I wanted to point it out for the record. Okay, so now we're going to actually get into the rape thing. I actually want to know who this little rapist actually is. I absolutely didn't encourage Faith to seek justice for her alleged traumatic rape. A rape, mind you, that we were not told about until after she fled to Virginia over 3.5 years later. I do not now, nor will I ever wish any parent to have to question their daughter's rape claim, but I am left with little choice. Which is why I now refer to the incident as alleged. Like so many Faith's claims, this allegation came up when it seemed to best suit her, and focus my attention away from the gun and towards a new menace. The rape allegation came out when I was trying to get Faith to tell the truth, and she had said that she was done with lying. Sadly, the lies that came after would grow exponentially. As we have said before, we've done nothing but tell the truth. If the gun believes that the truths we told would not come out during a freaking rape trial, civil or criminal, I'm not sure what to say. By setting herself up to have so many lies so easily discovered when trust is compromised, Faith guaranteed that her allegations would never be taken seriously. I had no part in that. The gun releasing revenge porn certainly did have a part in harming her ability to pursue any charges. That is 100% the responsibility of the Gunt. My parents have also refused to return or arrange for the return of my personal belongings. In context, Why should we have to pay hundreds of dollars in shipping to send all her stuff back to her? Mrs. V directly messaged the Gunt that we are keeping her stuff aside. Even getting my ID from them was like torture. Our only requirement was that Faith request her ID from us directly. A phone call would have been sufficient because we were not going to just send anything on the request of the Gunt. The Gunt himself said that Faith would refuse to call her mother and instead demanded that the only form of contact be a handwritten letter asking for a list of items to be sent to her. I sent whatever I could fit in a UPS small flat rate priority box. We did not steal any of her belongings. She abandoned her possessions at the hotel and made no attempts to contact us from the hospital or after she was back with the Gunt. Apparently picking up the phone is torture. Much of the stuff I bought with my own money earned from working, they still refused to return it. All of my remaining things are being held hostage by them in a misguided attempt to make my life harder. It's sad and it's petty. Aston answered, if she shows up at the door wanting her stuff, we'll give it to her. But we're not going to aid her in her poor decisions by using any of our time or resources to satisfy her demands when she cannot even be bothered to make a phone call. Though it would be fun to dissect how much actual work that she did when she was quote-unquote working in our shop, and now I can see the hundreds of DMs and texts that she sent during the workday. Additionally, the vast majority of anything that is hers, she certainly did not pay for with her own money. They also said that they would respect my privacy, but have, according to them, hacked into my personal accounts and devices. Not only is this unethical, but it is most likely illegal. The ethics of the actions depended upon the intent. So far as the legality, the ultimate plan is to turn the information over to the police and courts anyway, so we'll face the law and judgment at some point, as will the Gunt. Ooh, I can't wait for that. That's gonna be fun! I don't know if these messages are altered, although I would not put that past my father. Another line from the Gunt, by the Gunt. Neither Mrs. V or myself have any interest in using such dastardly tactics. Why would we submit altered messages, images, data to the authorities? Your miscalculation was that we had any intent to share this information publicly in the first place. Our very long history in a trust-based business with no record of defrauding anyone should make this quite clear. But what I do know is this. I do not consent to the sharing of these messages in public. You access them without my knowledge or consent, and I am telling you publicly to cease and desist. I will save this matter for the authorities to decide, but I will report all crimes that I have discovered and any additional that I'm sure will come to light. Oh boy, guys. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I wonder what sort of interesting crimes Alpha Chad Daddy Vickers has found in regards to the Gunt. You know, there was a stream that Godspeed, the greatest A-log of our time, did, where he went over, the Jannies of the Simspiracy. And he had mentioned that Ethan Ralph was dating Faith when Faith was only 17 years old. Now, some people didn't believe it, and I was a bit skeptical about it at first. But now that Daddy Vickers has all these text messages and has all these emails and screenshots and whatever, and he's willing to get it to the authorities. Maybe what Zoom said about Ethan Ralph being a pedo, maybe that shit's actually true. I don't know. There's only one way to find out. So where was I? Here we go. And the big reason that they say that they are doing all of this is my boyfriend, Ethan Ralph. My father has always hated Ethan because of how we got together. How they got together has little to do with my hatred for Ethan Ralph. Rather than go into another litany of perfectly acceptable reasons why I hate him, I stand by the revenge porn that he released being reason enough for any father to hate a man, or really any man to hate another. And for my rage, Mrs. V's position as a woman, much more brutal than mine. Oof. Now he's using an army of trolls who drove me into the hospital as a weapon against him. Another gunt line. Mrs. V and I are aware of our weapons. We use the tools available to us. I want to state very clear that Ethan Ralph absolutely did not release revenge porn of me. Nice gun. Faith was isolated in a hospital without technology when everyone watched you do it. She is either lying for you, guarding for you, has no concept of how technology works, or doesn't care. But she has no basis to make a declarative statement such as this line that you have written for her. He has my consent to record the video. We're still together and we plan to marry soon. Mrs. Gunt, that's rich. This is horrifying. This is horrifying, but completely expected. I would rather have never talked about this topic publicly, but my father has made that necessary. We pushed the gun into a corner and he weaponized the girl against her parents. It was never necessary. It changes nothing. It does nothing more than deflect from her abhorrent, degenerate behavior at the expense of the girl he supposedly loves. The fact that my father and now mother are doing this breaks my heart. Every step of the way they have made the situation worse, and they continue to do so. Ironic, since all we've done is point out the reality of the situation. Again, we've told no lies, and everyone is welcome to step out and point to anything that we've said being untrue. Just have open arms to accept your ass when it is handed to you. It made the situation worse, like when we flew across the country on your request to rescue you from your hero on promises of your return, then to spend that money which had been set aside for a family vacation, and later come home empty-handed, broken-hearted, and burdened with the grim task of breaking two small boys' hearts. Is that how we have made things worse? I wish that they would focus on my brothers instead of neglecting them for this insane war against my boyfriend. This line here is so guntcern, and it makes my sides are splitting, because the only idiots who have made this laughable comment are his people. Let me break down some very simple math for everyone. Most two-parent households these days, especially in miserable California, require each parent to work a full-time job. That is 8 hours per day, 5 days a week, 40 to 50 hours per week, throwing in lunch breaks and commute time, away from their children per parent. Our situation is unique. We own our own business. We have employees. Our school-aged children are homeschooled. Mrs. V and I usually do most of our work from home, and employees run our store most of the time. Our single regular day at the shop is on Saturday. Sometimes the kids come with us, sometimes they don't. The point is, Mrs. V and I spend less than 10 hours a week on our crusade, meaning that the remaining children still get much more attention than the average child in a household with two working parents. The idea that any of them are getting neglected is so insanely stupid and presumptuous that I know Faith didn't write it, because she already knows all of this. It's also a classic gunt guard argument. The good thing about the gunt guard and the gunt himself, low intelligence. I don't anticipate putting out any more statements, although we will see if they're needed. There's that "we" again, thus confirming the gun's role in this statement. I can make a 100% promise that the more we go after the gun, the more he will deflect and hide behind Faith, trying to pretend we're going after her instead of going after him. We've admittedly never liked the gun, for we've had no good reason to like him and every reason to despise him. But even if I didn't expect this quivering mass of false bravado to cower behind his barely legal paramour, while she tried to block for his degeneracy with false statements that he obviously wrote for her. I just want to state this clearly for the record. I do not want to live with my parents ever again. It seems like this is a thread that we keep circling around to for no good reason. When we say Faith come home, we definitely don't mean our home. You need a lot of help before you're able to interact with your brothers again, but we'll still you. There seems to be this selective amnesia that you were only weeks from moving out before you were lured away by the gun. I don't know if you can still call it grooming if they're 18, but I've read the messages. Let me tell everyone, if that wasn't grooming, I don't know what is. Just because she's a legal adult doesn't mean that she wasn't being manipulated. Sometimes things aren't a matter of legal versus illegal. They're a simple matter of right versus wrong. I'm not mentally ill. By your own admission, you are. But not in the way that you think that you are. This is why we are so desperate to get your help. I'm not stupid. Then you shouldn't say stuff like, I'm speaking from the heart. Speak from the brain. The heart tells you lies. I'm 18 years old and of sound mind, and I will be 19 in just a matter of days. Well, that's definitive proof that you are making the right decision without any explanations or justifications for actions and decisions. Making that clearly identify an unsounded mind. You simply state that you are of sound mind and then back it up by explaining that you'll be 19 in just a matter of days. But it won't change the maturity difference in radically different life experience between you and the gun, nor will it erase the unbelievably toxic foundation from which your relationship has been built upon. I'm asking my parents publicly to leave me alone and to let me live my life as an adult. Seems like a broken record here, but Ralph is the target, not Faith. They have no right to treat me this way, and I won't back down because of their pressure. Once more, it's always about what everyone else has done to them, but not about what they have done to everyone else. Zero culpability, zero adulthood. This is how a child thinks, which means it could have been written by either Faith or the gun. They have failed at every turn to take any responsibility for their immoral, unethical, cruel, and at times illegal behavior. If they continue, we will have to explore other options such as a restraining order. Please do, Faith. Please do. Faith must be too young to remember our own filed restraining orders 10 years ago. To remember that testimony from TRO hearings are taken under oath and can be used in further legal cases. Not only were we planning for an eventual TRO, though I seriously doubt that it would stick. After all, we're not communicating directly with either of them anymore. And the gun has blocked me on Twitter. Why he keeps reading my tweets via other accounts despite how much our jabs clearly upset him, I'll never know. In a public forum, I'm pretty sure that we can say whatever we want so long as it is true, or we have reasonable cause to believe that it is true. Or you can make the assumption that we haven't spoken to any of our attorneys. Yeah, that's the ticket. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm going to go back to focusing on my health and school plans. I hope my parents respect my decision. I love to know what Faith's plans are to focus on her health in school. And no, we will never respect decisions that are not worthy of respect. Any parent that would respect your decision needs to have their head examined. At best, we are forced to accept your decision because we have no power to change it. But what's more important, there are certain immature, ultimately stupid actions and behaviors one expects out of an immature young girl. It is the decision and actions of the gunt that we find most deplorable. We must make it clear again, we were the same age as the gunt only 9 years ago when we judge him. We judge him against how we were at that point in our lives, which was little different than our lives now, but for 2 additional children. Ultimately, time will slay the beast no matter what. Enjoy getting married at the justice of the peace. We would have given our only girl a hell of a wedding had she picked an acceptable man. It would have been nice to walk my only daughter down the aisle and give her away to a gentleman instead of watching her get taken away by a gentleman. Even living across the country, it would have been nice to have a son-in-law who I could look at as another son instead of a man barely my junior who has 0 accomplishments under his belt other than being able to bilk some lemons from radicals whose views he doesn't even share or agree with. Well, that was a fucking long one. But, yeah. I'm going to be the first one to say it. I am very much interested into finding out just what sort of interesting messages and emails and such that Daddy Vickers has gotten from in regards to conversations between the Gunt and Faith. That's going to be a lot of fun, especially if Daddy Vickers and his wife manage to drag the Gunt into court. That's going to be a lot of fucking fun. The main question I have, at least, is what's going to happen first. Ralph's going to get his ass dragged into court, or are the Gunt and Faith going to get married? Who fucking knows? But it's only going to get more and more interesting as this stuff continues. But for now, my friends, we must say goodbye, at least for now.